What's going on, guys? And welcome back to a new little series we like to call the Dual Hemisphere Hangouts Presents Podcastmania. That's right. This is a semi-monthly-ish, wrestling podcast spinoff that I'm hosted with my good friend Nick over here. As always, I'm Luke. This is Nick joining us on the other end. And guys, today we are covering all things about the recent Elimination Chamber premium live event. They're not pay-per-views anymore.
They're not.
But no, they're not. They're PLEs. But we're going to be covering everything from that. And, obviously, here we go. Nick, what do you think, man? First, overall impressions of the PLE, man.
Well, yeah, hello. And I want to say that's not a mouthful of a title for the podcast at all. Right? No, I love it. Before we get into talking about Elimination Chamber, which was hot take, brilliant. Not a hot take at all. I think it was a really good watch. I just want to give you a slight anecdote. So, is anecdote the right word? Sure, let's go with it. So, previous pay-per-view, Royal Rumble. I watched all of them with a good friend. I'm going to give his name because nobody on the internet is going to know who he is, and I don't think anyone that I know is probably going to watch this. So his name's Al. Love him to pieces. Known each other since we were 4 years old. Anyway, last pay-per-view, we watched it in daytime, and I'm like, hey, do you fancy some beers? Nice bit of day drinking. It's a Saturday. Who doesn't love that? And he's like, no, going to be good. Staying off the beers, and he came round, and I got extra just in case, and he didn't have any. I was like, okay, cool. You don't want to drink. Zero judgment here. This time rolls around, and I'm like, hey, Saturday, weather's been nice recently. Do you want some beers? And he's like, no, I won't. So I'm like, cool. So I get in enough beers for me, right? Like I'm still gonna have a drink. Al knows I'm still going to have a drink. He's fine with that. Like we both love a drink under normal situation. And turns up and I'm like, hey, do you want a drink? Referring to I've got Coke, I've got juice, I've got tea because we're British. There's never a wrong time for tea. Right? And he goes, yeah, sure, time. I'll take a beer. And I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, I'm like, yeah, sure, man. I'll give it. Which is like, I mean, I'm not a bring your own beer kind of guy. Of course, I'm going to offer a beer to my mate if he wants one and what have you. But so I give it, and I'm just like, well, I'm going to want to drink the whole way through this. I've only got enough beers. I'm going to have to move on to spirits and stuff by the end of it, which is fine. I have no problem drinking spirits, but it's wrestling. I want a beer. So PSA, if you're going to tell somebody, no, I don't want you to provide something for me, in this case specifically alcohol, don't then ask for it when you get there.
Don't ruin Nick's wrestling experience. He needs his beers, and that's all he cares about. It's not the same drink. Man. No one wants a rum and coke at a wrestling event. It's beers the whole way through. So
I mean, it wasn't even rum and coke. I was on gin and tonics because that's the bottle I've got open. Like, don't get me wrong, I've got my rum, I've got my whiskey in the cupboard, but the bottle I had open was gin. It was so not wrestling vibes.
Yeah.
But, hey,
you definitely
I made it work.
Yeah, gin and tonic reminds me of just old school black and white. Like that's what.
Yeah, that's it.
that's what I imagine.
Queensbury shit.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, anecdote and slight rant over. How did I find the pay-per-view? Pretty good. Pretty fucking good, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not saying it was perfect, and I'll get to the one specific downside for me. But overall, really good. Enjoyed most matches. Luke, you?
Yeah, I honestly think the Elimination Chamber has been the best pay-per-view WB has put on this calendar year. Honestly, I'd argue that it's probably the best one they put on this WrestleMania to WrestleMania season. It was really good. There was, and we'll talk about it. Obviously, I'm pretty sure I know what your down is on the card. But overall, I think the matches and moments we got in between that far outweigh it. And I think other pay-per-views tend to usually have 2 or 3 downs, and this one I can only really find one down. So, I mean, personally, from watching every single PLE since previous WrestleMania to where we are now, I think it's probably the best one. And yeah, the matches are amazing. And I guess, yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive in. So guys, when we talk about this, this is a, like I said, a PLE like exclusive podcast. Whenever the PLE launches, we're probably going to come in about a week after, record and talk about our thoughts, break down the matches, where we think things are going to go, stuff like that. So, we're going to break down the matches, then we're going to talk about what happened, then we're going to talk about the future, and then maybe by the end of it, we'll talk about where we want to see things go. But to dive right into it, first match on the card was the women's Elimination Chamber match. The winner of the match was Bianca Belair. And in the very beginning of the match, which I honestly think, I'm actually kind of curious about what you think about it, because I feel like a lot of people are divided. I always feel a little iffy when a participant is taken out of the chamber because they can't actually wrestle. But I think for the storyline purposes of Jade Cargill coming back, actually absolutely brutalizing Naomi to the point where hats off to Bianca. She was acting her ass off on that one, and you could definitely like feel like she was like fearful for everyone's life at that point. And I think that was a really cool moment to kick it off because with Naomi in there, no one really thought Naomi was going to win anyways. So it's kind of like, if you're going to do that moment here, might as well do it here to leave an impact, for the end result being that despite what Bianca had to witness, she came out on top and won the match. So Nick, what were your highlights of that match, and what did you think overall?
All right. So overall, I really enjoyed the match. Like it was fast paced. I think everyone was putting on a really good show. Before we move on to the actual match itself, though, to go back to what you're saying about that start, I didn't like it. I found it a really jarring way to start the match and the pay-per-view as a whole. I mean, I know wrestling does this stuff. Like it's what we're here for, right? The turns, the twists and stuff like that. But at the same time, I just found it like almost like out of place. Like it was somehow it made too fast a start to the action, and yet at the same time, as a result, kind of like slowed down the very initial part of the actual match. And while I'm sure it works storyline purposes like to come, because obviously I don't think at this point in time we know all the ins and outs of like why that specific attack is happening, right?
We do know now.
Because at
the time we knew Jade was attacked. We don't the way it was progressing was they were saying that Liv and Raquel were the ones that attacked her because they saw backstage video of them walking away from the scene of the crime, which in basic wrestling storytelling, it's never that. And so they definitely they related to that. And so I agree with you. I think we got our answers on Friday, and then where Naomi literally openly admitted that she attacked Jade because she was trying to protect Bianca, because she felt like Jade was riding Bianca's coattails and was going to turn on Bianca. And that's why Naomi attacked, and now she's playing the justified heel, and the sense is like, I've done all this for you, and now you are throwing me aside, and this is not fair. And the finally time I just had to do something for myself, everyone turns on me. You're basically face turned heel promo, like everyone's turned against me kind of thing. But it's the acting thing. Like Bianca and specifically Naomi, they're acting in it. Like even though it's like fake, it's definitely like good acting that's going on here. Yeah, it's like fake, but it's good acting. When I see tears coming out, I'm like, all right, at least you're trying.
It was certainly passable, Bianca committed to the bit. I think when she initially came out of the pod, there was a moment where she ran up to the closed chamber door and no, Naomi, what are you doing? Reaching out for her and stuff. And I'm like, hey, you're an experienced wrestler at this point. You're a multi-time champion. I know what you've just witnessed might be upsetting, but at the same time, get your head in the game. This is there's acting and then there's overacting. But no, okay. So after the start, as I say, the match itself, brilliant.
It was a great match.
I felt like once you got over that jarring intro, the pacing of the match, brilliant. I thought that all the women in there were putting on some of the best shows that I've seen and what have you. And I've, to be honest, been quite critical of Liv in the past.
I was about to say, it's like, has your opinion changed a little bit on her working a little bit?
I think that was possibly the best match she has ever had.
Yeah,
like in my memory at least, right?
Yeah, and the nicest and like the most like just being blatantly honest with you, Liv carried that match. She started the pace,
100%.
like, and went the entire way through. It made everyone look good on top of it. Like, she literally put that match on her back, and it really just makes me feel like, for me, I really wish the booking for Liv was a little bit better, specifically when she was facing Rhea, because when she was facing Rhea, a lot of times she was just scared of Rhea because, you know, Rhea's this towering figure and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, all right, cool, I get that, but that's the way they were portraying Liv. But then it just made her look weak in the ring overall, at least this recent run that she had with her. And yeah, like I mentioned to you before, you know, her matches with Io and obviously this Chamber match alone really just put in perspective that this girl can go in the ring and she can carry a match and work with people. And I hope management now sees that they can let Liv not be a cowering heel and let her go in the ring and let her play. Because she was also kind of like, at one point, like previously, she was kind of like this chaotic person that would like jump off of things and do extreme stuff as well, like a couple of years back. And I think they've kind of melded that together really well with her.
Absolutely.
And I'm very excited to see her. And I'm happy that I'm a little disappointed she's in the tag scene for WrestleMania. But that being said, she will make that match good because the match they had against Raquel, her, Bianca, and Naomi, the Raw before Elimination Chamber was like hats off, like a great tag team match. Like honestly, one of the best women tag team matches I've ever seen. It was really good. I mean, you should definitely go back and watch it if you get a chance to.
Fair. I will try and make note of that. But like you say, you're shame she's in the tag scene for Mania. Like I think getting Bianca as the winner of this match is not a bad thing. Obviously, I know I mentioned
I'm not upset with it.
I'm a big fan of Bianca. I think that if Liv had gone into Mania, it wouldn't have been right because the match versus her with oh god, why's the name eluding me? Who's the current women's champion?
Well, now it's
Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley.
Well, actually, Io won it.
Did Io win it?
Yeah.
Oh god. Okay. Right. See, this is what happens when you don't follow the
week to week.
You know, week to week stuff. So if you'd have been going up against Rhea, I felt like that wouldn't have been a good match because Rhea should just be dominating. Frankly, I'm amazed that Io beat Rhea because I feel like Rhea Ripley is probably the strongest woman in the division at the moment.
Before we move on, so I can just give you a little context so you can articulate
please
a
do.
little bit better.
Before I embarrass myself.
Yeah. So Io Sky and Rhea Ripley were wrestling the main event of Raw last on Monday. Bianca was in the audience. Rhea was winning pretty much the match. Io was outside of the ring. Bianca was kind of cheering her on to get back into the ring. Like nothing negative, but Rhea took it as like Bianca doesn't want to face Rhea at Mania. So they got a little tussle. Rhea got distracted. She went to go do a top rope, her top rope finisher, whatever. I can't remember the name of the finisher. And she looks over at Bianca before she does it, and Io flips her Hurricane Ranas, hits her finisher, and wins. And the whole storyline now, it looks like Rhea's just like frustrated because, like, once again, she is her. Like every time she loses a championship, it's usually her own reason. Like it's her fault. Like it's not anyone beat her. She was distracted. And so obviously the plan going forward, even though it's not confirmed, we're probably going to get a triple threat between Bianca, Rhea, and Io. And I'm good with that because those three women are the three ladies who came through NXT together. They've carried the women's division for the past couple of years since, you know, most of the other like main horse women have been kind of like out or like falling down the card, putting over younger talent. So it's a well-deserved spot. So I'm not as upset as I thought I would be. And obviously for the storyline purposes, it did not make sense for Liv to win here because I knew she wasn't going to win. But I just I wish I could see her more, maybe not in the tag scene, but maybe in like the women's US IC scene, maybe putting over or going after one of those bigger belts because I love watching her wrestle recently in those single type matches.
Yeah, Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Okay, well, Rhea being the champion that Liv would have been facing aside, I think it was still right for Bianca to be winning here, but I think Liv has been shining up a whole new light here, and I know she's been around for a number of years. It gave some stats for her at the beginning, and I think she's been in, was it like 6 elimination chambers or something like that? Which I was like, I did not realize she'd been around that long. But yeah, she portrayed really, really well. And I think you did see, like, I mean, talking about spots here, like there's one I've got noted here. It was a beautiful moment, and like it wasn't complicated in the slightest, but just the beautiful use of Bianca's hair, which we see all the time, where she's like got her hair and she's bouncing her between like the chamber chains and then the ropes, and it's just like a yo-yo. And honestly, like you've seen a lot of stuff with Bianca's hair, but I felt this was like quite original.
It was a crazy good spot,
and it was really well like portrayed, and I think it shows like Liv using the brains and strategy, because she clearly doesn't have the same amount of muscle as some of the other female wrestlers that are in there and what have you. This was a nice way of showing it without her just being the traditional high flyer and what have you. So yeah, I really, really liked Liv in this one. I'm just pulling up other notes. On the flip side, the one that I would say I think performed not the greatest in the match was Alexa Bliss. Like, I'm not saying she was bad, okay? But I feel of the 6 women in there, I feel like she was the weakest.
That's always been
she had small impact, right? And considering she's like quite a fresh coming back to WWE after like a long time off, what is it, a year, 2 years or something? She's been away. I would have liked to have seen more from Alexa.
No, I agree. I think, again, the biggest thing is to remember that this is her second match she's had since she's been back, and she's thrown in the Elimination Chamber. So I think ring rust is still probably a really big thing as well. But Alexa's never been super, like, kind of like Liv, like previously. Like, Alexa's never been super amazing, like, technical wrestler. She has certain moves. I will say, though, that being said, Alexa is over as fuck with the fans. They absolutely love Alexa. Like, I honestly was like surprised because she got the loudest pop of the night when her chamber pot opened. They popped super hard for her as well. Obviously, like, I'm really excited to see her back again. Yeah, definitely agree with your point. She definitely was the weakest in the ring technically. I think it's just ring rust. I think that will come the more matches she gets back into. But yeah, I'm excited for Alexa. I definitely can see her in like a mid-card title run or tangling up with the Wyatt Six in the future, which is, I think, where they're going to go with it. A couple other notes that I have here that I was talking about is, definitely Roxanne, the rookie in it all, was a little disappointed that she got taken out a little bit earlier. I would have loved to see her kind of do another Iron Woman thing that she did in the Rumble where she was number 2. I
get that, but I will say, like, she brought so much energy to it. Like,
she was great.
The aggression levels coming out of her were just like
she was great.
She was just like, unless she was knocked on her ass, she wasn't slowing down. So
she was great. No, she's going to be I mean, she's going to be the next big thing in the division. Honestly, she's really, really good. And then definitely, what else do I have? Yeah, basically, the other note I have here is Liv looked great. The spot of them hanging off the ceiling and her whipping Liv with her hair whip, that was an insane spot. Love that spot as well. That was crazy.
I wanted to talk about that. Okay, right. That, again, it goes back to, we have seen the hair thing 1,000 times. Like,
every time,
it's a gimmick, of course it's going to come out. I don't think I've ever heard her hair crack that loud. Like, it cracked like a whip. Like, I was genuinely wondering, like, has she put something in those extensions? Because I presume they're extensions. I don't think.
Yeah, they are. There's not.
Like, has she put something in the like middle of the braid to make it like hit harder? Because I have never seen it be.
I thought it was fake for a second. I thought it was a sound effect because it was just like so like unreally like boom, and then you just see the impact. I'm like, oh no, that girl whipped the fuck out of
Yeah,
Liv.
you see the impact, and like less than a minute later, there's just like this red line across Liv's back,
the
and it's just
entire
like,
time.
oh yeah, there's just blood. It's just like, fuck me, that one hits.
But yeah, no, I mean, and then I guess on the only other thing I will add on there is like, I'm not overwhelmed because I think at this point with Bayley specifically, Bayley is, I don't want to say she's like in the crossroads of her career in the sense like she's like now going into the role of putting over younger talent, and she's probably not going to be in a title scene anymore for a while. I love Bayley. I think Bayley's great. I think Bayley needs a new character thing because she's just playing the lovable, like she's kind of getting the Natalia treatment right now. Like I feel like they're getting that moment where she's just a legend. She's super nice. People like her, but she's not doing anything prominent. I would love to see her and Roxanne in like a match of Mania, maybe for a title or something like that. Because I think that's where what they've been teasing, a confrontation between those two specifically. So I think that would be something cool for Bayley to do. I just feel like Bayley was just there for this chamber, and that was a little disappointing for me overall because I think Bayley's much more capable of that. I think Bayley always gets the short end of the stick in the four horsewomen conversation. And I don't think it's any fault of her. I think it's just the way the company books her because I think they could book her a lot better.
I think the booking that she's had to this point, like in the beginning of her run, was obviously brilliant, and she got really over with the fans really quickly. And
she was a great heel. I mean, like the first that COVID era where she had the shorter hair when she finally turned heel, that was great. And then with what's the name of the thing? Damage Control, a little bit weaker. And like I'm glad she got a championship
came back for that, right? She had a break, then she came back with Damage Control, and since coming back, like there just hasn't been so much of there's not enough drive behind her, right? The company is like somehow both pushing her and not pushing her at the same time.
It's weird.
It's like they feel like they've already done the work for her. It's like, cool, we've got Bayley, she's established, she's great, we can rest on the laurels with her. But at the same time, like if you're not making her relevant, and she's been relevant but not pushed. It's a really weird thing to do because she's in matches, so relevant is the wrong word.
She's prominently shown, but her character's not doing anything.
Exactly. Yeah, this is it. It's the booking and trying to portray her as the experienced player in all of this. Like, compared to some of the women coming up and what have you, she absolutely is the experienced one. But she still like should be prime of her career. Like she shouldn't be like close to being put out to pasture, and that's somehow how it feels the current booking is.
I know she should be in the same vein as your Charlottes and your Beckys, or your legends, as you will, of this. The four horsewomen being the legends that they are. They should be booking her like a legend. I think they're just booking her like at your everyday women's wrestler who's been here for 10 years. And that's a shame. But, maybe they'll give her something. I like the idea of her putting it over people because I think Bayley does like that aspect, like at a personal side of thing. I think that fits Bayley as a person, not the wrestler, but the person herself really well. But yeah, no, that was the women's match. I would say, honestly, like if I thought it was a great match. I think it was really great. I think, despite the weird timing with the opening, and there was one spot that I didn't like, and it was the Alexa roll up. No, the Liv roll up on Alexa. There's a weird sequence, which is me nitpicking the fuck out of it. But I just remember looking at it, and the Liv roll up on Alexa was just like, that looked a little awkward, but oh well. I wish it just, again, the less than the impact, but yeah, overall it was a great match, and I was very happy. I'm glad Bianca's there. I think we're going to have a really great triple threat match at Mania. I'm pretty sure that's the way they're going with it, between three of the best current women wrestlers, and I personally could not be happier with that. But we digress. We move on to probably, and again, I hate saying it, but probably the one low of the night, that being the tag match between Nia, Candice versus Trish and Tiff. And if we're being completely honest here, the only reason why we had this match is because they're in Canada. And
They just want to wheel their hometown hero out and say, "Hey, look who we have! It's Trish. You love Trish."
And in the nicest way possible. Like Trish again wasn't the weak point in this match. Trish actually
she was. She
looked pretty good. I thought.
Finish what you were saying, but I disagree with wherever you're going with this.
I think Trish definitely. She still has a little bit of it in the tank. That it was specifically the one spot where she hit the Stratisfaction at the top rope. That actually looked really good. I'll give him that. I'll give her that.
That was on Nia, right?
That was on Nia. That actually was pretty good. I'll give her that.
I remember that well.
But it was also Nia. You're trying to get Nia to do a flip. Yeah, I mean, you're getting Nia to do a flip. But the fact that she still went there and did that at, God, however old Trish is. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you got to understand, these are just little fun matches not to take seriously for me. I will say, obviously, I don't like the fact that that's how they decided to use Tiffany in that moment, because it didn't make her look strong to go against Charlotte for the title at Mania, which is where they're going.
Okay.
With it. And that's where I'm like,
because I'm disagreeing with a whole lot you're laying down at the moment.
Okay, go ahead, man.
So, go ahead. Okay. So first, the one thing I'm not disagreeing on is the one low match. Yeah. It wasn't so much as a bad match, more so just kind of like, what's the point? It was, the point was to wheel Trish out in front of the fans, and clearly like push Tiff in some way, shape, or form, and that's all fine. But I felt like Trish specifically was showing her age, and I don't even necessarily mean age, because she's clearly still far more athletic than a lot of people, what have you. Like the girl can still do the athletic side of things, but more so in terms of like the era of wrestling she comes from. Like, unfortunately, without me trying to put her down, it's like the women with divas, right? I mean, Trish was like the least diva-ist diva, bar possibly Lita. So like, credit where credit is due, but at the same time, I felt like watching her, so much of it was like it was spots rather than the constant back and flow and tussle and stuff that you expect to see from wrestling. It was all of her moves seemed so much more femininely orientated, if that makes any way sense. Like,
well, that's how she's wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I get it's her style, but it just felt dated, and she feels a little bit out of place in the ring at the moment. On the flip side, what you were saying in terms of it doesn't do much for Tiff, I think Tiff was like she was showcased, I think, really well in that match. Maybe you don't need the match versus Nia, because like this is what, obviously she took the title off her, then she had a match with her, and then like this is now, I don't want to say third time around because she kind of stole the first time, but regardless, because it was Money in the Bank cash-in. It felt like she was portrayed really well. She was portrayed as the clearly strongest of the four women in the ring. And I felt it was a good showing for it. Like, she's been in the company for like what, about a year? No, sorry, I'll rephrase that. She's been in the company longer than that, but she's been out of NXT for about a year. Which, as I've said before, I don't know much about NXT. I'll hold my hands up. Like, I watched no, not pay-per-views. What are they? PLE? PLEs. So NXT is kind of like a little off my radar. And it seems like Tiff is really like getting into a stride, being showcased well. And I think it's necessary to do so because of the fact, like, she's been pushed early on, right? Giving anybody the belt within a year of you coming out of NXT onto like the main roster and what have you is early, you know? Unless you're already a big name for some reason, or you're trying to be pushed really hard. It's early, and I think the fans can tell that. But I think she did a great job in this match. Like, she I don't think she botched much, anything. Like, I think, you know, even the stuff which was shown to her be like taking bumps, she performed them really well and what have you. So this is where I was pushing back. It's like Trish not holding up as well as I think you were saying, and I think Tiff was shown quite well.
I mean, I don't think she again, I'm not saying that Tiff didn't carry the match. I'm not saying Tiff didn't look good in the match. I'm saying they did not make it seem for me like this match in general was enough to make me firmly believe that Charlotte Flair is not going to take her down at WrestleMania. Like, it's like
that is an interesting question, right?
And that's where I'm stuck with Tiffany right now, because I wish they would have had her. And I mean, again, and maybe it's just because there's not enough like women or something like that. But maybe putting her maybe instead of a tag team match, maybe a stipulation match with Nia, where like Nia's got like maybe making it like a no DQ or an Extreme Rules match, where Nia, this crazy strong lady's got nothing holding her back, and Tiffany pulls that out. Then that makes it for me seem more believable that Tiffany could take it to, in the nicest way possible and the most truest way possible, despite how you feel about Charlotte, the GOAT of the women. Like, she's the GOAT. She's the best women's wrestler, like decorated women's wrestler of all time. Like, how are you going to take this rookie upstart and make her seem like a legitimate threat to her? I just don't think the match itself did that for her. Made me like, it did not make me get excited for the match. It made me like, all right, I bet like it's going to be a good match, and I'm happy to see it. But I just feel like I don't know, because I'm not sure if Charlotte will win this one. But it's like, I don't see how Tiffany beats Charlotte from seeing what we saw on the screen. If that's what you're using to build this match, I don't think it did a good enough job to build the excitement for that match to showcase Tiffany in the way that's going to make her look like a viable, on equal playing field as Charlotte. Which we got 5 weeks to Mania, and things can happen at any time. But like that match specifically, like we said, it was just to wheel out their hometown hero. In my opinion, I think Trish still looked pretty okay. Pretty good in my opinion, considering her age and the fact that she wrestles once every fucking year. I think she looked okay overall. I think Nia did Nia things. I wish they had Candice off Nia more, because I think Candice can really, really go in the ring. Like, she's like, the spots that they showed her, like she was doing really, really good work.
She was.
I would like to see her away from Nia and maybe going back into more of a mid-card scene, because she can go. She's old. She's 40. She's over 40 years old. Like, she's an older wrestler.
Candice?
Yeah. She's 40.
You wouldn't know. Would not have guessed that.
You wouldn't know.
She's still fairly new. Like,
fairly new to the main roster.
She's been around for a good couple of years, but in the grand scheme of like when you're looking at how old some of the wrestlers have been around for and whatnot,
and she's been around like in the WWE.
I did not realize
the WWE for like, I would say she's been in the WWE NXT main roster. Asked for probably like 6-7 years, but main roster probably about a year more than Tiffany.
It's about 2 years.
About 2 years. About 2 years.
Because I looked it up, right? I looked it up to make sure that I wasn't putting my foot in my mouth at something, because I didn't know, and I think that's because I don't think they've been portraying Candice as well as they could. And I agree. I think she definitely does deserve a little bit more of a spotlight, which a little bit pun intended, she's always going to be in the shadow of Nia if she's walking around with
her.
Nia.
Yeah, for sure. So
Nia carries Nia, just the way, the type of wrestler she is, being so big, is like she's always going to have an aura of like, I am the main character in this, like, or at least the main villain, and so they put anybody with Nia, they're going to be small potatoes in comparison. And I think Candice absolutely, she performed well in that match when she was given a chance to. And I feel like that was another that was another dropout. Like, there was a point where Nia literally like almost pulled her out of the ring and like was like, no, we're doing a switch now. Kind of like Nia jumps in, does the move, and then like, right, now tag me in so that I can be legal. And it's like, I get it. You're showing that you're the boss, and there's that dynamic there and whatnot. But I feel like this is doing nothing to put Candice over. Like, sure, the matches might be doing good things for Tiff, but for Candice, I felt she was hard done by. Going back to the Tiff thing, I do feel like it made me believe a little bit more. But I'm just really interested to see where this is going. For the Mania match. And you're right. I don't think this did enough to set it up. It made me believe a bit more in her, but like, does anyone want to see Charlotte as champion again?
No one does.
She deserves it. But like, does anyone believe that Tiff can beat her? Like, no. But at the same time, I don't know what the point of Charlotte beating her is. Like, it just, if you peel behind the curtain a little back and you look at like what is the point of these matches, like Tiff losing the championship to Charlotte just stops Tiff's traction like dead. I feel like she's actually being pushed in a good way at the moment. She's been booked really well right now. Arguably this match wasn't the greatest booking for her, as we've said, but like she's doing good. But coming up against Charlotte, like either she wins, which is kind of unbelievable, or she loses, which is like stops her dead in the tracks. And I'm a little confused at what they're doing.
Yeah,
that's my take on it.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to go with it. And at some point, me and you will sit down and we'll fantasy book WrestleMania and where we want to go with it, because we could talk about what we want to see at some point. Because I have opinions on what they can do, but it will take me another 30 minutes to get my opinions out, so we're not going to do that. We didn't talk about the winners. Obviously, if you didn't know, Tiffany and Trish won this match. If you couldn't tell by the way we were talking about, they won. So it was the low point of the night, but it was overall what you would expect from a guest tag team legends match. And wasn't expecting to get blown away. And I wasn't like, oh my God, this is so awful, I can't watch it. I was like, all right, we're here.
Yeah.
This is where I'm just going to sit back for 15 minutes, watch this match, and get ready for, in my opinion, this next match, which lived up to the hype. And honestly, in my opinion, is probably one of the most brutal, ridiculous, and best matches I've probably watched. I would dare say it's probably in my top 5 favorite matches I've ever seen. Because that match,
with all of that, except for the hype, because I'll tell you now, I was not hyped for this match going in, and the reason being, it's about the millionth time we've seen these two
exactly.
wrestle.
And I knew, but this is the thing for me. What I looked at, I was like, this is the first time they're wrestling with under the Triple H regime, where I think he's going to let them do, like, make it more indie-ish, if you would, like what they were doing in Ring of Honor. I was like, all right, this is the first time they're going with it. Kevin Owens is a heel. There's no like traditional wrestling, because regardless of what you say, they never have a bad match together, which just goes to show like they're wrestling soulmates. But this was their best.
100%. So just to say, like, I was unexcited for it because it was the millionth time, but at the same time, I was like, at the very least, it'll be a good match, because they can't not have a good match together. They have worked together. Like, I don't even know if did you say they'll come back? Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in an unsanctioned match. Which is essentially no DQ, because obviously it's sanctioned. Like, they wouldn't have it on a television if it was unsanctioned or what have you. But it was just like, I was going into it going like, all right, sure, I can watch a KO Sami match. Like, it'll be good. I'll enjoy it, but do I care? Turns out I did. Like,
I did. It was an amazing match. It's by far
so beautifully executed on every level. Like, this is a 10 out of 10 match, right?
Yeah, and I will say this, and I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat with me. We did not watch probably any of their Ring of Honor stuff at all. This is their best match I've seen in WWE. Period. So for anyone coming like, oh, you gotta watch it, we never watched Ring of Honor. This is just strictly just them and the WWE watching. This is their best match they've had. And this is also the one where I have so many notes, because I was flabbergasted by what I was seeing, because it was honestly,
I had the least amount of notes compared to every other match, because it was like, I don't need to take notes. Like, all I need to just say is, it's awesome. It's awesome. I do have a few. Yeah, carry on.
So the notes that I do have, and we can talk, and you can hop in whenever you want to about anything I say. First thing I said was just a fucking gnarly match, like rough looking. Like I have 3 times I wrote down, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable again. Oh my God, I'm really uncomfortable, because I'm watching this and I know it's fake, but it's like they're putting each other through hell. The bit where Kevin Owens literally bit Sammy, like, in the match, I'm like, what's going on?
It got the emotion across, right?
Yeah. Then when they went to the outside and Sammy hit the 2 thunder bombs onto the tables outside, like, one of them was one of the things on the tables, they had like a glass, like a legitimate glass on there and it shattered and it went on Kevin Owens' arms and like messed up his arm. That was crazy.
That was crazy. The bums outside onto those two tables, I will say, that was one of my tiny critiques, and it was nothing to do with Sammy or KO. The critique is one of the tables, like it's these moments, by the way, which take me out of the moment. I couldn't help but notice it's like, sure, they've got snacks and stuff on, but nobody's selling anything to the crowd. Like, what is it for? And like, you literally had one of them with like, I think it was plastic cup. Like there was sunglasses, sure, but I think there was some plastic cups, like stacked in a pyramid, and it was just like, what is that for? Who has set that up? Like that is so like ludicrous that is even there. Like this isn't for the fans. This isn't to like give out refreshments or anything like that. This is literally just a prop, I couldn't help but notice and see it as a prop. So, but that was one of my two critiques, and I'll get to the other one in a second. But like, it wasn't about Kevin or
it wasn't about the spot itself. It was just the way the prop table itself. Yeah, I get I honestly didn't pay much attention to it. It's funny that was what caught your eye the most.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. It was like somebody had circled it in a big red marker and like, hey, look at this. Like I hate myself for it, but that's what I saw.
And then another spot I have is the double table spot where they pushed them over the ledge, and that was gnarly. That was crazy. That was a crazy bump to witness.
It was a crazy bump, and it seemed so much more realistic than like a typical like spot where it's like suplex, because it looked like it was about to be a suplex, and I was like, this is going to be gnarly as hell, and then it wasn't, and it was almost like pushed and thrown as opposed to the super. And I preferred that because it felt so much more like how it would actually go down,
actually happen. You know? For me, I was like, because I was nervous. I thought they were going to do this spot. I'm like looking at the way the tables were set up, and I'm like, bro, like if that's gonna, like if they miss that like by an inch, like they're dead. Like it's like it was too close the way the tables are set. Like they do a suplex, a back suplex or something, like whoever's taking that, please duck a little bit, squish your body up, because if you lay flat on those and go through, you're gonna hurt something.
I like how much you care about the wrestlers.
I was scared.
I see it as entertainment, and it's just like no, dance monkey. I want to see that go through the table.
Then the chair spot with the brain buster and the 2 count where KO hits him with the brain buster onto the chair, busts the chairs out, and then he kicks out at 2 again. So many like 2.5s right there, like in that entire match. That was a crazy spot to me. And then the freaking thunder bomb through the chair as well blew my mind. That was crazy.
Hang on, is that the thunder bomb onto the
not the barbed wire? No, this was just this was just the first thunder bomb through the chair.
Oh, I know which one you mean.
Yeah, that was a good one. The fact that he hits him with a stunner, I mean, we knew he was going to kick out, but that was a crazy like kick out at that stunner too. And then the fact they had 3 refs in there, which is hilarious to me, coming out there trying to do the count, and like they're pushing him away. And the next thing I have is I'm uncomfortable because it was just so much going on in the match where I'm like, don't like seeing Sammy like this. Like Sammy legitimately looks like he's dying. Like in our
man knows how to like sell.
Man knows how to
I'm
sell.
sure he was probably really hurting as well, but like he was selling that so well. It was perfectly executing that I am knackered, but I'm still trying to fight kind of thing. He just like, again, even the almost like being down, like it's just a masterclass for both of them.
And then
the ref thing was like, I will say one of the refs, like the first ref I thought was brilliant. In fact, let's not pick on the ref, which I didn't think was so good. The first ref was just like, he was just standing there. He's like, hey, this is unsanctioned. Like, I absolutely feel uncomfortable. And you could see the ref wanted to sort of like slow it down, hang on, give him in a minute, like they normally do. But he was just like, nope, I've got to stand here. I've got to watch it. I've got to do nothing. And I thought, he was great for that. But then he got knocked unconscious because
And then they had poor old Charles Robinson run to the ring and get immediately taken out. I was like, oh, Charles. Oh, man, just stay in the back.
A
couple more spots I have before we get to the end. Again, the brain buster through the table. That was, again, Sammy getting dropped on his head so many times. And then obviously what we just talked about, the barbed wire chair. That
So before we get into it was wild. This was my second tiny little critique. Because I saw it and was like, that's cool. Then they opened it up and it was like a regular chair, and I was like, hang on a minute. Once again, I'm being taken out of the action because I'm like, somebody has specifically wrapped that in barbed wire so carefully so as not to obscure the mechanism from working. Like, if I was getting a steel chair and wrapping it in wire, I'm just doing the round thing. It's not going to work for the chair anymore. So, like, again, like, I'm picking apart what the prop guys are doing. Nothing to do with the wrestlers, and I don't want people to think I'm taking away from that. But, I couldn't help but for half a second when they opened it like a chair, be like, okay, I mean, it's still really cool, but like, the concept I loved. The concept of all the chair spots. The double chair with like the barbed wire one in the middle one, which obviously that was beautiful.
That blue thunder bomb was amazing. I thought the match was. I mean, I had a feeling Kevin was going to kick out, but for a split moment, I was like, oh my god, is Sammy about to pull this out? This doesn't do anything for Kevin at this point, but I'm like, all right, cool. And then he kicked out, and like, I legitimately, like, those moments when I'm like, even though I know my heart of hearts the match isn't over and they're going to kick out, but I'm still shocked that they actually kicked out. It's just like, all right, we got it.
It looked like KO was kind of like, I'm kicking out, but I kind of don't want to kick out.
Like, it was rough. It was like rough. And then obviously the spot where they do the drop toe hold and Kevin hits his face on the barbed wire, that was gnarly. Because I read an article, I read a little news thing that they wanted to shave down the barbed wire, and Kevin and Sammy said, do not shave down the barbed wire. And so like that legitimately could have been like terrible if he hit it the wrong way and he like poked his eye out and whatever. So again, one of the spots where I'm like, God, please be okay. And then we would be remiss by the ending spot of the match, the two power bombs onto the hard part of this thing right on the head. Back to back, Kevin Owens picks up the win, and like overall, like again, like I said, it's probably my favorite KO Sami Zayn match, and it is by far probably one of my top 5 favorite matches from just a match technicality, spots, and just storytelling in general of all time. Like it's that good. Like if you haven't watched it, just watch it.
Just to touch on the ending before we move away. So like the two what was it, power bombs onto the hard part edge of the ring. Like the last one was like, it was scuffed, and I honestly don't know whether it was meant to be scuffed or not, because it was like it wasn't the commentators say like Sammy fought back, Sammy made it, and like I was so unsure whether it was still Sammy fighting back, because like in reality that's what would happen. You try and do something, someone's going to try and make it less of an impact, and I felt it was really well executed, that, and then to just like roll him into the ring, no more moves or what have you, it's just like okay, you're done, pin. It almost felt like the match should have been the climax and the ending was the anticlimax, but in a really good way. It was like, it's now peaceful. It's done. It's like
he just couldn't take it anymore. Even if he scuffed it up at the end, like he still went in the back. And the thing is, he scuffed it up, but he still had the wherewithal to follow through and at least get hit, because it was totally just, it was definitely was a botch in the sense of like, someone like Kevin just lost his grip a little bit.
I honestly didn't know if it was a botch. I genuinely thought it was meant to be like they're showing Sammy still has the inch of fight in him, kind of thing. So again, they made a botch work for him in my mind.
They made it look really good. And when it was over, it was just like, even as the fans that we got to watch such an amazing match, it's just like, for me as a watcher. And I will say, like, I like wrestling so much that I genuinely care about the wrestler's safety and stuff. I'm like, thank God the match is over, because I'm like, you can't, like, fake it as fake as it is. You can only make it so fake. You can only take so many table spots. You can only let your spine hit the hard part of the barricade. You can only get dropped on your neck and head so many times before it starts. You can only get hit with barbed wire the right way a couple times, like that match was brutal. It lived up to the match. When you talk about an unsanctioned match, it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. and they did that. Like, I like the fact that I wrote it 3 times. I'm uncomfortable because like that's what an unsanctioned match is. Like, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. The in-ring work was amazing. The storytelling between the two was amazing. Like we said, they're soulmates in wrestling. And if they, honestly, I would be okay if they don't lock up again. Like, I think this is like the part. I don't think they will. I don't think they won't. I think they definitely will have a couple more matches. But I think we don't need to see another Kevin Owens Sami Zayn match for a long time after this one.
Yeah,
like it should be done.
It's been a while since the last one, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's been a couple of years.
Maybe once a year, once every other year, or something.
Once every 2 years or so. Yeah.
Going into this, I felt like you'd got the 2 Elimination Chamber matches that were bookending the PLE.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the middle, you have the Trish Wheel Out Hometown Hero filler match.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it felt to me. And then Sammy versus KO. And I almost felt like behind the scenes, there was just a conversation like, hey, look, we do an Elimination Chamber. Honestly, we don't know what to put here. You guys cool with just like having a match? You haven't had one in a while. Like, it's always a good show. And they're just going, yeah, sure. Well, I mean, that's what it felt like before going into the match. Then you watch the match, and it's just like I don't care about anything behind the scenes. That was just, it was a masterclass. You know,
it was a great match.
So
I mean,
good.
and the fact that they were in their hometown of Canada, again, it's giving the Canadians their love because they're both from Canada. You know, they're a great way to have a match out there. And and then obviously after the match, Mr. Randy Orton comes back finally. Everyone's super excited again.
Still my beating heart. I love Randy Orton.
He's does great. Hits the RKO, goes for the punt, and I'm like seeing like the refs try to like stop Kevin Owens from hurting Sami and feeling miserably, but they're like, "Oh God, we gotta stop Randy before he kicks someone's head in." I'm like,
right? Like the thing is, it's been banned for a while, and like I feel like even just alluding to it, I feel like is a sign of things to come with like this new Netflix era.
He's getting his head kicked in at Mania. He is. Kevin Owens is 100% getting his head kicked in at Mania. But I'm happy to see him back. I like Randy Orton. That's probably going to be the match at Mania. Owens and
I hope
Orton.
So. I think
it is.
It'll be amazing.
It is. Yeah, it's going to be a good match. We're gonna have a crazy RKO spot at some point. Like Kevin's going to do a crazy RKO spot with Randy. We're going to have a Mania moment. He's going to kick his head in, and Kevin Owens is, for the year that he's had, not again the thing I'll touch on before we move on to the men's Elimination Chamber. I just want to give Kevin Owens his flowers just as a performer in general, because just the fact that this man has the whole story of why he's like crazy right now is because he hasn't held a singles title in a really, really, really long time. But the fact of the matter is that he is still this prevalent without having a story revolving around a title. And he is this prevalent in the stories so much, goes to just test how he can change his character up so well from being a face to a heel and it just feeling natural really well. I mean, the goal was, we'll take it back a couple years, the trust the company had in him to even have a proper match with Stone Cold Steve Austin with a broken neck that broke his neck, and be like, hey, we're trusting you with our legend for his first match back in 15 fucking years. Like, hand claps, the stuff he was doing with the Bloodline and stuff like that, into what he's doing now, going kind of crazy at the fact that he can't.
I will say that Stone Cold match, in my opinion, was awful. Like, I feel like it was. I talked earlier about Trish showing her age in that match earlier. Yeah. Nothing compared to Stone Cold. Like, I mean, clearly he hit the gym and whatnot before going in, but ring rust was off the charts. Like,
if you're going in there expecting a good match, you're crazy. But going in there and expecting a fun match, that's what that was. That match was a fun match.
It was a brilliant thing to watch.
But Kevin Owens deserves all his flowers.
Entertainment, not as wrestling.
Yeah. Kevin Owens deserves all his flowers. I think everyone knows how good Kevin Owens is, and if the Mania's where he gets his head kicked in and he's off for 6 months till SummerSlam, he deserves the break. Like, he deserves it. He's been doing a great job. I think KO is one of those wrestlers that I almost don't want to see with a belt, because I feel like it doesn't do anything for him. It doesn't do anything for him.
I heard an example once, from an interview of Stone Cold talking to Undertaker, and it was from the Stone Cold. What were they called?
The Stone Cold Broken Skull Sessions.
Broken Skull Sessions, yeah, that's it. And one of them in where he's doing Taker, he says some people like need to wear a belt to make them relevant. Some people wear the belt to make the belt relevant. And I feel like KO is one of those people that like he doesn't need to wear a belt to make him relevant. If he's ever wearing it, all he's doing is lifting up the belt, which none of the belts need to be lifted up at the moment, and I don't think he needs it. Like, I think some sort of recognition potentially would be nice, because it does feel like he maybe is like, you know, the unsung hero kind of thing at the moment. But regardless of that, he does exceptional work. And he never has a bad match, and I feel like this was one of his best.
Yeah, and just to wrap up, just kind of what you said about some people need the belt, other people don't need the belt. I think anytime a character like a Kevin Owens, a Seth Rollins, a Sami Zayn, CM Punk, a Drew McIntyre, if you will, the fact that these it just goes to show how good their character work is, because a lot of people need a belt, right? A lot of people need a belt to get behind it. And the fact that they're giving these guys, trusting them with storylines that do not revolve around the belt. Like literally Punk and McIntyre's whole summer feud was over McIntyre just hating CM Punk, and it somehow worked. Like, and there was no belt involved. Like, it just goes to show, like, some people don't need a belt. Like, a perfect example of it right now is like Gunther. Like, I will say Gunther needs a belt, because Gunther on his own without a belt isn't interesting. That being said, he can go in the ring, but he needs a belt. Another good example, I think of Braun Breaker. Like right now, like he's going to be the next biggest thing, but right now he needs a belt, because if not, he's just a big scary man spearing people. And then you get into the territory of, oh, he's a Braun Strowman type of monster kind of thing. He doesn't that's what he is. And so like you said, certain characters need a belt, other characters don't. And I think when you don't need a belt, it just goes that you're on that upper echelon of superstars where you deserve, like, you've just gone and proven that you don't need a belt, which is amazing. But I digress. We're going to go ahead and hit probably the next main part of the chamber, that being the men's Elimination Chamber, which was
final match of the night, right?
Final match of the night. And man, what? Because at this point, I didn't know where the Rock and Cody thing was going to be. I didn't know if it was going to be the end or beforehand, because at that point you're kind of like figuring out. So the fact that we got that, I was like, okay, so whoever wins this match is going to be either a part of this segment, or we just know that this guy is going to be facing Cody, and we don't know if it's going to be a face Cody or a heel Cody at this point without knowing what's happened. Now,
right, okay, so hang on. For context, I want people to know that, like, we're recording this a week after it happened. Obviously, I'm in the UK. Watching it live is not something I'm going to do at my age. I used to when I was younger, stop up that late, but I'm sorry, 4 a.m. is not a good time to be going to bed now. And so, it's a week afterwards that we're recording this. Hence why, obviously, you knew the stuff about what had happened in the week from the week shows. And you obviously either watched it live or watched it, like, immediately after the event. On the day after. Right, okay, cool. The day after the match had happened, Luke knew that I was not going to be watching it. And I just get a message saying, stay off the internet. History has been changed. Right? So I'm just like, okay, the whole pay-per-view I've been going through, it's probably at the end, but I'm just like, I don't know what's coming. I've got no context for what Luke said. I've just got to, like, watch stuff. And again, because I'm not watching the week shows, I see this whole, like, Rock's asking Cody to sell his soul. I'm like, okay, that's probably going to be it. Like, what is Cody doing? How are they going to change formats or something like that? Like, if he's becoming Rock's champion, is he going to be, like, working for the guys behind the scene? Like, what is being changing about it? And then we don't have that segment before the main event, and so I'm like, okay, cool. So what is going to happen in this main event that is so history changing? And the whole time I'm watching it with this, but I just wanted people to know the context I am going into this with. Stay off the internet. This is crazy.
Yeah, I hope that didn't take away your enjoyment from this match.
No.
Because this match was amazing. I thought this match
I was a couple of gin and tonics down by this point.
Yeah. This match was 1B to the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn's 1A. It was a good Elimination Chamber match. So I mean, overall, I enjoyed the fact that we had. I think all the participants in there were well deserving enough. I mean, yes, Logan Paul. Everyone hates Logan Paul, but
I love Logan Paul.
But I love Logan Paul, the character on the show. He fits so well with everything in the WWE. So having that was cool. But yeah, the match itself was it was really good. I mean, you start off with two really good people in the match. The first note I have is when Seth came out in his ring gear, I was like, why is Seth dressed like Gligar? He looked like the Pokemon Gligar. He was wearing purple, and he looks like Gligar. What the heck? I know that's not what. Whatnot, I don't know. I don't know what he was going for with that one, but that's the only thing I saw. But
if we talking about entrances, by the way, you talk about Seth. Yeah. I just want to note again, Logan Paul knows how to play that heat. Yeah. Comes out, that flag. Gets booed, goes back, gets a giant American flag for there in Canada, and it's just even more. The man knows what he knows how to get. Doing.
He knows how to get heat really well. And so they do their entrances. Everyone's in the pods. And then Seth and Drew start off, and again, perfect first two to have in there. And then slowly but surely, everyone comes in. Some crazy spots. I was not a fan of the way that Drew got eliminated. I think Drew deserves so much better for what he is getting right now. I get.
Okay, I love how much we're disagreeing with stuff. I have here written in my notes. Loved the shock/steal elimination of McIntyre by Priest.
I was upset. But the only reason why is I wasn't mad that he got. I was mad because I know what's going to happen at Mania, and I don't want that for Drew. I don't want a Drew and Damian Priest match. I just don't. I want Drew more prevalent in the stories because he's so good. He's so good. I'm not saying he needs a championship match. But I'm saying
he's one of my favorite wrestlers at the moment.
But I'm saying what does this match do for Drew and Priest? I don't think it does either. They're two former world champions. They're two big guys. They're gonna have a good match if that's where they go for Mania. But I'm I don't it's the story that Drew is constantly getting rolled up. I'm getting tired. I get it. It's funny. Drew's this bad guy, but he's always getting rolled up. And it's just I don't like it. I don't like the storytelling behind it. I'm a little frustrated personally, just as a McIntyre fan, seeing that this is the route they go with it. So be it. And then Priest comes in. He gets eliminated by Paul from a frog spot, which was a great spot, by the way. I love. That spot was great.
Talking about Logan Paul, rather than Priest from that element, I just want to say, I feel he. It's all right because the frog splash is listed in my notes to do with Paul rather than Priest. But I feel like Logan Paul continues to impress in every single match. And I think part of that is definitely who he's being paired against, right? He doesn't get paired against, newbies. He doesn't get paired against the unexperienced.
He's not getting paired with the NXT kids. He's getting paired with the top guys in the matches, which is...
There's probably two reasons for that. One, obviously, he's not an everyday wrestler, so you do need somebody to carry the match. But I think also the type of person he is, he will have a contract which says he's not wrestling every day of the week, and when he is, the matches are going to be relevant. So I get it. They're going to use him for stuff where his name is going to be worth something and what have you, because like it or not, Logan Paul has a big name to him. But against Priest, he lifted Priest and did a tilt-a-whirl slam on him, which I felt because he does some high flying stuff, but then he also does these semi-intricate power moves and what have you, and it's that is impressive from someone that isn't doing this day to day. I don't care who you are, that was just it kind of came out of nowhere and stuff. I was damn. And then that frog splash from the top of the pod, as you were referring to, it was beautiful. It was so well executed and stuff like that. Like Logan Paul, like him or love him, is really good in the ring. Yeah. He is. Maybe it's booking, maybe it's whatever, but like, kids trying, right? Like,
the kid's doing good. He's a great heel. He knows his character well. He's not put in spots where he's going to be shown his weakness, because that's obviously the whole purpose. We're not going to be putting him in there with good. But the fact of the matter is, like, you know, no one's going to be no one here will ever say like, okay, hey, LA Knight is an amazing worker. Drew McIntyre is an amazing worker. Damian Priest is an amazing worker. Like, you'll say that about Seth Rollins. You'll say that about maybe Ray. You might say that about Punk or whatnot. And Roman, obviously, like the main guys he's had matches against. But like, he's also had matches against guys who you don't think is like, oh, these guys are safe, like sure bad guys. Like, he can have a good match with someone who might not be like the top of the card kind of match. And it just goes to show that when he does put his mind to something, he puts in the work. And that's the thing, because despite what most people say, you know, most people, I have not heard a single negative thing, because I will troll the internet and I will hear comments and stuff like that. I have not heard anything from like dirt sheets or whatnot of anyone complaining about the way Logan Paul is backstage or in the matches and whatnot. And I think that just goes to show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like people are like genuinely like, there's not a negative thing about Logan like out there, at least in the WWE side of things. People might disagree with like the way disagree about the way he handles himself and stuff like that in general outside of the ring, but like in the ring, in the backstage, nothing but sounds like good praises coming for Logan Paul. But yeah, he does that elimination spot. Then we get Punk, Cena, Logan, and Seth in the ring together. Punk gives Logan's comeuppance for being disrespectful, which he should have, because don't be disrespecting my goat like that, Logan Paul. As much as I do respect you, don't be doing that. Gets his comeuppance, and then we have some really cool moments in the ring between Cena and Punk, which I was all here for. You know, just as someone who grew up watching, getting back into wrestling during the Summer of Punk Cena era. Like, those guys, again, we talk about soulmates in wrestling a lot, and Cena, to his credit, has lots of soulmates. You know, he's got Randy Orton, he's got Edge, he's got, in my opinion, I think AJ Styles is another soulmate of his in wrestling, because their matches were amazing. But him and Punk,
real good ones, yeah.
And but like Punk is in there in that conversation for best Cena rival matches and stuff like that. And seeing those moments between them in the ring, you know, the hugging, the handshake, the agreement, the working together to take out Seth Rollins, like, I really, really enjoyed that part of it. And I love seeing them in the ring together. And all it hopes for me is that somewhere down the Cena retirement tour, they lock up at some point for one final one-on-one match, and I would be happy. But yeah, they work together. They have some really cool moments together. You know, they lock in their finishers against each other. And then eventually Seth tries to come in and ruins the fun for everyone, because that's what Seth does, because he's an upset little boy that CM Punk is back in the ring. And so they work together. Cena Punk hits him with a go to sleep. Cena hits him with an AA. Punk pins Seth. Seth is taken out. And then we get the final two, that being Cena and CM Punk and Cena. And the
shake hands, the hug or whatever it was that went on there. And like, it showed, regardless about what's coming later, which I realize has been the elephant in the room, this whole podcast, really. Yeah. It is like, that was really nice to see. And cool. I wanted to point out, like, when Cena came out, like, obviously he got huge cheers and what have you, but like, he was explosive, right? When he came out of that party, it was shades of old, right?
Yeah, he looks good. He looked good. He needs to do something about that hair.
If anything, like, he's probably not doing it for much longer. Like, respect to him for not covering it up too bad. I agree with you, but
he's got to do something about that.
Hey, it's distracting to most of us.
It's distracting, man. It's distracting because it's bad. It's not even like a good balding. It's a bad balding. Like, he's got a full head of hair on top, and he's just got this big patch. And I'm like, I get it, but I'm also like every time they did a sky shot, I'm just like, I just see his bald ass head.
When it's a comb over and it's a comb over backwards, it's just like, I mean, like, mind you, what's the option? Because the option is either shave it off or get plugs, right? And
we shave it. shave it off. Just shave it off and go bald like you used to. Do something.
But yeah, I think that there was the shades of old when he first came in, and then when the face down with Punk, that was really good. It was respect for each other as veterans and from because they were both doing it at the same time back in the day and whatnot. And then it was a showcase of what true experienced wrestlers that know each other so well should be doing. And I'm like, it was counter after counter after counter, but at the same time, in between those counters, there were the blows. So it wasn't it didn't feel like a spot. It felt so real of what you would expect to see from these two people that clearly know each other inside and out,
Yeah.
And it was only a small section of the whole match, but it was beautiful. This back and forth, this tussle and whatnot between Punk and Cena.
It was an amazing moment. I was really excited by it. And then the shock, in my opinion, the shock of the night, even though I kind of knew it was going to happen, something was going to happen between Seth and Punk. But again, they do one thing I'll give Rollins about, and the way the production team works on the stops. They do such a good job of hiding the stop from coming, because I did not in that moment. I'm like, he breaks the rope. And I'm like, oh, he's good. He's coming. He's free. And then out of nowhere, the stomp comes in, because I'm like, oh, Seth is out. They close the gate, whatever. Stomps him, and then Seth. Even though I don't like Seth's character, whining about Punk. I don't personally like it a little bit. I think Seth could do so much better with a better character route on it, because he's still that goofy, wearing the cool, random clothes and stuff like that. But then when he sees Punk, he's like, I'm going to kick your ass. Da, da, da. I'm like, take the clothes off. No, don't take the clothes off, but shed the flashy, gaudy gimmick and just be Seth fucking Rollins. Just be Seth Rollins. And that's what I want. And when he does this stuff, he's out there and he's seeing, he gets curb stomped, and Cena, locks in the nastiest STF I've seen in a really freaking long time. Nasty STF. Usually the STF doesn't look like it's got much thing on it, because you don't really see him super grabbing the neck really hard with this one. But this one, because obviously they're going for a pass out, because Punk's never going to tap. And that's what happens. He passes out. But that was a gnarly STF. But they're just seeing Seth on the background just screaming, die, die, die to Punk. It's just great storytelling on all ends. Punk knocks out a CM Punk, just makes him unconscious, which sucks, because I hate seeing it, but if that's the way you're going to go, because Punk's never going to tap, and I'd rather him not get hit.
I loved it, because he wouldn't tap, and this felt perfect for so many reasons. Obviously, so what I liked about it in particular, you've explained the Seth Punk angle really well, but from the Cena side of things, he's technically right before that. I think he's just taken a bit of a bump or something like that. Yeah, it looks like he's actually likely to be on the losing end of this. Punk's just fought out and what have you. Seth hits the stump after should have already gone and whatnot. Yeah, and you see Cena go for it, and at the time, I said this to my mate. Right, I was like, oh, this is really good, because it shows I always go back to the Eddie Guerrero style of face, right? Yeah. Which is, and Cena did this at various points in his career, not always, but has done it. Of doing the heel moves, but in the cheeky kind of way. So it's okay, it's on the crowd side. People want to see the dirty stuff occasionally. And it felt like this opportunistic moment, which a traditional face like Cena wouldn't go for. But he's doing this cheeky moment. Yeah, sure, I can win. Go for it. And I saw it as almost a face cheeky move, as opposed to what is actually coming. I've rewatched that moment after knowing what comes afterwards. You see it in a whole different light. Right? Yeah. It was perfect storytelling from the Cena side of things.
Yeah, it just shows, because even beforehand, the thing is Cena was in the press conference, he put himself in the chamber. He didn't qualify because he's John fucking Cena. He doesn't need to do that. But he did say me becoming the 17th, becoming a 17-time champion is best for business. And seeing that moment happen, even before after what's going to happen eventually, we see the Flash. And I'm like, that's a desperate man trying to win, trying to get that championship right there. And that's what I saw in that moment. He's like, he took that desperation. And again, I'm like, all right, I'm all here for it, because either way, I like whoever wins here. I'm excited for whoever wins, because I'm excited for the matchup regardless. And so, yeah, Cena wins. Punk's knocked out. Great way for Punk to go out, because it doesn't make Punk look weak at all. It sets up another. It sets up a match at some point down the line, because prefaces will fast forward to Monday. They've announced that this Monday, Seth and Punk are going to be fighting in a steel cage match to settle their differences. So I don't know if we're going to get a singles match
at Mania.
No, it's on Monday.
It's actually happening on Raw.
It's on Monday. Yeah. So I don't know if they set up a that sets up a singles match in Mania between the two. I don't know what they're going to do. I think they still have, like, there's questions about what Roman's doing, because Roman got taken out by Seth as well. So there's so many things out play, but it gives Punk freedom to do something where it means something. Because if Punk wants to go the route of, maybe, let's say, inserting himself into the main event Mania by using Heyman's favor or whatever it is, I can see that. Or if they want to go in the favor of maybe putting him in, like, I don't know, a triple threat between him, Rollins, and Reigns, and something like that, or just doing something. It puts them into two different storylines, where the lead up to Mania is a good thing, because while it's great to have the card kind of set in stone, kind of knowing what's going to be happening is also the allure of WrestleMania season. And I think it gives Punk freedom to do a couple things here, because he didn't flat out lose the chamber. He got choked out and knocked out. He didn't lose in a traditional sense, because, you know, it's a no DQ. I mean, in my opinion, there's no rope breaks. I mean, if he's passed out, you know, I feel like you don't call the match, because it's a freaking chamber match. But you know what I mean?
It is, but at the same time, like, I think that I'm not actually sure on what the rules technically are. Let's face it, the WWE plays so fast and loose with them, like, it doesn't matter. I think if somebody's genuinely passed out, like, just take them out of the match, because, like, it's what are they going to do? He's just going to, oh, you're unconscious, cool, roll you over, pin, job done. Exactly. Like, unless you wake up in 3 seconds. I think that while you might have a point that maybe he shouldn't have counted out because he was passed out, ultimately, if he's actually passed out, it probably shouldn't matter.
And I think my biggest thing with it, okay, before we move on to the thing, the one gripe I had about that moment is I'm a big proponent of doing the arm thing.
Oh, the dropping the arm? Yeah, 3 times.
I'm a big proponent of that.
Because then it's on the third one they normally catch it and what have you.
Yeah, I didn't see that to me would have been such a cool moment if that happened. But since I guess the reason why they didn't do it is because that was the way the match was going to go. For me, it just kind of took me out of it, because that's typically what they do. Because most people don't really get choked out like verbatim in wrestling matches, so it's very rare to not see that like be the end result. So I was expecting that for them, just to touch Punk, be like, oh, he's out, call it. I was like happy that it happened that way, but also it's just like I wanted a little bit more drama per se on that side. But I digress. So Cena wins the chamber. He is going to main event WrestleMania against Cody Rhodes, and then right then and there, after they raise the pod, Cody Rhodes' music hits. He rolls out to the ring. He gives Cena a big old handshake. Looks like we're going to get a kind of like almost like a passing the torch moment, like between those two at Mania. Like at that point, 'cause it's like the veteran versus the new guy, the new face, and like it's a cool moment for that. I think like my storytelling for me was like this. The way they were telling Cody Rhodes' story was that becoming champion has a lot to you lose yourself in the championship, and I thought that, and at that moment, I'm like, this is where they're going to go. Like, maybe Cody is going to show some healer sides, and Cena's going to show, like, you don't need the championship, doesn't need to change your character. It didn't change my character for 20 plus years. I was like, my opinion, like, this is where they're going with it. Cool. Yeah. The Rock comes out, and he's like, Cody Rhodes, are you going to sell me your soul? And I'm like, all right, this is either going to go two ways at this moment. Yeah. And also, before we even get to the part of Cody Rhodes selling his soul or whatnot, why the fuck was Travis Scott there?
Okay. So this is the one thing that Luke and I touched on, like off the podcast. We haven't talked about a single thing about what happened in the main of the PLE. Because we wanted to save it all of our opinions for this. However, the one thing that neither of us could not help but mention was Travis Scott. What the fuck?
Why is he there? Yeah, why is he there?
I questioned why he was there when he first came out, and then it transpires that he just was super not relevant throughout the whole thing.
Yeah,
like he didn't do a thing. I think he held something for somebody at one point, and that was it. What?
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, like I guess, like you want to have like that moment. I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to do like a. We'll talk about it in a second, but they were trying to do some alluding to something with Travis Scott being there. I think I don't
actually. What was that belt he was carrying as well? Because like it looked like
a fun belt. It was a fun belt for Travis. I don't know,
with some duct tape on it, and like I'm not sure if it had Rock written across the duct tape or something.
I don't know.
Like,
it was weird.
Okay.
His presence felt weird, and I wasn't a big fan of it. But that being said, they walked their way out to the ring. Rock talks about to Cody. He's like, "All right, you're gonna sell me your soul." Da 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 da. And they kind of alluded to it, and then I kind of knew where it was going to go. I'm not going to lie, I knew in my heart of hearts Cody was not going to turn heel, and I honestly predicted his line when he says like, "I sold my soul to these fans, these people a long time." That's exactly where he's going to go with it. Yeah. And then he literally just says, which this was the part where I marked out for, because anytime they say "fuck" on live on TV, I get excited, and he's just like, "Rock, fuck you," and I'm like, oof, that's cool. And everyone's getting excited and hyped. And then Cena gives him a big hug. And then you see The Rock. He does this. And then you just see Cena's...
his finger across throat.
So he does the finger across the throat, symbolizing take him out. He's done. And you just see Cena with his his normal boyhood smile go to this stone cold expression that unless you've seen him in Peacemaker, you've never seen this face before, and you're like, oh fuck, this is actually happening. And then a part of me is like, maybe it's not going to happen, and then Cena kicks him right in the fucking dick, and the beatdown that ensues is mind-blowing. They beat the fuck out of Cody Rhodes. They punch him with the watch. They whip him with the belt. Like, they beat the living shit out of him. And Cena's doing the majority of the offense. And then the one thing that Travis Scott did do, he did hit the living fuck out of Cody. He hit the shit out. He knocked what out of him. He smacked him so fucking hard. You hear that shit. I'm like, damn, does he know it's not real? Like, fuck. But
I do remember that.
He smacks the fuck. And then you just see the scene of Rock, Cena having his foot on Cody's fucking head, pushing it to the ground. And it's official. The one thing that I personally thought would never happen in a million years. Cena's turned heel on his retirement tour run, and he is going to WrestleMania as the heel against Cody Rhodes. And that's when I literally, the second I saw that's immediately when I texted Nick and I said, do not go on the internet. Wrestling history has changed. And I'm going to be the first person to, I'm not going to be the first person to say this, but I'm literally going to say it. And people can disagree with me or not. I think you're wrong. This is by far the biggest heel turn WWE history. You can take Hogan turning, you can take Rock turning, you can take Stone Cold, you can take Rollins betraying the Shield or whatnot. Does not hold a candle to literally John Cena, millions of Make-A-Wish kids to doing this. And that's why I was scared. I knew this. I could not fathom how this was going to happen. And I'm like, you can't take. This blows my mind. And to this day, I woke up and I was like, maybe it was I'm not kidding. I literally thought maybe I just dreamt that happened. And I go on the internet and it's like, nah, it legitimately happened. And to be fair, that was the one thing that everyone who watched wrestling, they're like, did that actually happen? And yeah, it fucking happened.
Yeah.
Cena, John Cena is a heel.
You've told me wrestling's history's changing and stuff. We get into that segment. I expect first of all, I'm like, Cody's about to turn heel. I don't know what this means, but like, obviously, there's going to have implications of Cody taking this deal. Then he doesn't take the deal, and I'm like, oh damn, okay. So what weight is Rock going to throw around, and he's just going to be able to say like, okay, well, because I'm the boss, this is now change of format, stuff like that, which I think I mentioned earlier. I was like, oh damn, like what's? And then when Cena hits that low blow, my mouth just hit the floor. Right. I then watched the whole thing play out, and if you saw me talk on the podcast previously, like, I'm a Cena guy. Like I came up with Cena, and watching this, I was just my initial reaction was I don't like it. I don't like it. Hindsight, I'm not so sure anymore. But at the time, like it got that emotional response out of me.
It felt like someone
huge deal for me.
Yeah, I mean, I will be the first one to admit that I was not the biggest Cena fan growing up as a kid. I much preferred like the high flyers and stuff like that. But seeing Cena turn heel, it almost felt like smacking my childhood self in the face. Like my childhood was hurt. You know what I mean? Like me growing up watching Cena, like it kind of hurt. Like it hurt my inner child seeing him turn as a bad guy, because he's just like a lifelong, and that's how it should be. Like, you know, as you're a kid and you're watching your favorite guy come back and he turns out to be a bad guy, it hurts, right? Like me and you were over 30 years old.
Yeah.
That hurt our inner child, like seeing Cena do that. And I'm the same way. I'm like watching this with my roommate, and I'm like, oh my God, this is actually, I was like, no, what? No, like I was shocked.
Deal.
Yeah, anytime wrestling gets me to talk like out loud, like that's when the moment's there, because normally I just sit there and watch. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I was legitimately like talking to my TV screen, like, what the fuck is going on? No, this can't be happening. Like I didn't think they were going to do that. I can't believe they're doing this. And it happened. And yeah, like we joke about it we say it all the time. It's not even a joke at this point. Like he's firmly a heel now, and he's firmly going to be a bad guy for, I'm assuming, the majority of his run as a retirement. Well, majority, I think. I don't think Mania. Okay, well, like I said, we'll fantasy book Mania, but I don't think Mania is the last time we'll see heel Cena. I think he'll be heel probably till SummerSlam. If I were to like mine it, kind of book it a little bit, because I think he wins the title at Mania. I think he does.
Right.
At this point.
Same here. First of all, before I put my foot in my mouth, as anything over the last week, you know, the small Raw and SmackDown after Elimination, has Cena turned up and said anything yet?
No, he's not coming. He's not scheduled to appear until I think like 2 weeks from now.
Okay, cool. Right. So my take on it was, first of all, this is huge. This is one of the biggest storyline impacts I think the WWE has. I'm going to say ever. Yeah. Right. You cannot understate how big Cena, or overstate, whichever the right word is, how big of a deal Cena turning heel is. 20 plus years of being a face, that come hell or high water, it did not matter. And right. He was face. Right, he was good guy. He was,
he was not even a tweener. He was not even a tweener either. He wasn't one of those faces like Stone Cold or like Punk or like Rollins, where they're like doing heelish, tweenerish things, where they're kind of like playing both sides of being a good guy and a bad guy. He was straight up a cold-blooded, like a straight up, didn't do anything wrong, except like
there was a little bit in the beginning, particularly when he was like Doctor of Thugonomics, like he's meant to be the guy from the street. So of course,
a majority of his run, he never was a tweener. He was a baby face, fruity pebbles eating, Make-A-Wish John Cena, superhero Superman John Cena for 20 plus years, at least 18 of them, 17 of them. He was the face, like he was literally everyone's idol as a kid. Like there's like you can't even really compare it like to a Stone Cold or a Seth Rollins or a like a Hulk Hogan like turning kind of thing. Like you can't comprehend that. Like I guess if you were to maybe make the NWO case of Hogan turning heel and joining the NWO, you could maybe make a small case in the same fact that Hogan was always a good guy, who's the real American hero. Yeah. But like, it's bigger than that because it happened on WWE, and WCW did not at the time. It probably didn't have that much of a. So wrestling has always been big, but it's bigger now than ever, and it was way bigger when Cena was around than it was ever when Hogan was around, in my opinion. So I don't think the impact is as culturally significant as it is now. And I think it makes it bigger because Cena's, you can't picture John Cena being a bad guy. You just can't. I think it's the fact that
in the age of the internet as well, like, you got to think we know all of this stuff that happens behind the scenes. We know about the Make-A-Wish and stuff like that. And sure, I'm sure Hogan may have done stuff that made him look like the good guy and whatnot outside the WWE that people might have seen in the media, but nowhere near as much as it was as essentially been shoved down our throat with how much of a good guy John Cena is.
Yeah.
But like I mean, we could say how big a deal it is for everyone a day, but I think you talk about you think he's going to be heel for the rest of his run.
A majority of it,
right?
A majority of it.
I think there is, and I think it's partially me hoping, him making a point of coming out, and he'll still be a heel, but playing the almost hard done by heel card, like. You know, that trying to sound like the justified villain in this, and being like, you know, this is about, like, I have done so much, like, I feel like I have earned this chance at legacy or something like that. Like, I want the title. I promise I'm not a bad guy, but I can't turn down the opportunity when it's presented to me. Like, almost try and sell, like, I'm still a good guy, but I've done this one bad thing. Please don't hate me. I expect you to hate me, but like, I'm still asking to be the good guy. I can see that, and I kind of like, I think the child side of me is hoping for that, for like him to not really be evil. You know, evil is a shitty word to be using here, but like, not be like pure, like all about greed and stuff like that. I want him to just be like, you know, I want this final shot, like, and that doesn't make him a face by any means. Like, he will be at least seen as a heel.
It's crazy when you think about it.
But I think booking wise, I think you're right. I think he beats Cody. I think they give him this title, because if they don't give him this title, he never gets the 17th title. It will always be jointly held between him and Ric Flair at 16. And I think it does, like any industry, good to have somebody surpass the old records, because it shows things are getting better. So I don't hate him getting a 17th one. I don't feel it's cheap. I feel like, if anything, what they're having to sell for this is, like, as opposed to cheap, a very expensive way, because they are spending a lot of goodwill to get Cena that 17th belt, because, you know, that's what they've got. Like, it almost feels like with Cena, they've been saving up, and now they're finally cashing in this big, huge, bloated pinata of piggy bank that is Cena, of like, filled with goodwill, and that's why this heel turn hits so hard. So I don't think it's like a cheap way of giving him his 17th win. Well, I think if he'd have just done it fairly and cleanly, I'd actually been kind of less on board with it.
Well, see, the thing is, for me, right, like, my biggest thing when we come to storyline talking about it, like, there is no reason for Cena to turn heel. He's got the match. He's just got to win the match, right? Like, does joining the Rock signify that he's going to cheat to win? Is that going to give him like an extra advantage? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if that's he's like, I'm selling my soul to the Rock, so I know I will win this belt. Then cool. But like, we're talking about, like, again, him maybe like, well, I did it. Well, John Cena doesn't need to be justified in saying, well, I did it, I deserve this, so I'm going to cheat to win. Like, he doesn't, because that's all that this is telling me, is that Cena is aligning with The Rock, so he will guarantee win this 17 championship, which is why he is going to be a heel for a majority of whatever this left of this run. And I think if I'm going to fantasy book just a small segment, not getting into my full deep dive, I think ultimately what this is going to do is, and I'm glad that they're doing it this way, because what it's going to do is it's going to submit Cody, love him or hate him, because the kids love him. He's over with the crowd. No matter what, they're not booing him. They're basically they're giving Cody the torch, because Roman's already part-time. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a little above medium with Cody, but like you can't deny that the fans love him, the kids love him, first of all, which is their biggest thing. At the end of the day, wrestling is targeted towards children. The WWE is targeted towards the children growing up watching their heroes and then taking their kids to watch. This is what they're predicated on. And I think the cool thing about this is, if anyone's going to be able to get Cody over as the next face, the next superhero, Superman, is going to be Cena. And I'm excited for it. And I think this is the ultimate story they're going to be telling. This is the ultimate story where Cena's going to have his matches, and then eventually he's going to drop the belt back to Cody at some point. I'm assuming it's going to probably be near SummerSlam or towards the end of his thing, because this is his last WrestleMania.
Weirdly, I could just say I could see him dropping it to Punk potentially, because Punk's been brought back, and other than this feud that's been going, I don't feel like they've used him a lot. And like Punk v Cena one final time is a good way for like giving Punk the belt. Like Cena dropping it to somebody that is almost like not like completely foretelable, like dropping it back to Cody. I don't know. I feel like that's almost a little too obvious for them. But I don't think it would be bad for it. But
but the thing is, I will say this: with any face champion, it's the chase that makes it the best part. And Cody chasing a heel John Cena, like it's gonna be if we enjoyed him chasing Roman for 2 years, him chasing a heel Cena is like going to be great. And that's why I feel like that's what they're going to do.
Cody finished the story versus Reigns, and that's it. There hasn't really been much more of a story, frankly, like not one worth telling. I think that's where he needs a new fresh start, and him losing to Cena and going back after the belt to reclaim his top spot of being the best there is. I think that's where we see Cena turn face again, is where, he gives him the handshake, he passes the torch. And then the last couple months of his reigns, maybe he's doing those matches with your Punks, your Randys, your whatevers, your big ones, I think. Because as much as I would love to see Punk get another championship, I don't think he needs the WWE Undisputed one. I think he could easily go for the World Championship on Raw, because that's where it's going to be. Yeah, and I can be fine with that. But at some point that's how I see the booking storyline of it going a little bit, without getting into the meat potatoes. I can talk about fantasy booking for 3 hours if I want to. But I definitely am excited for the heel turn. I'm shocked. It's groundbreaking, and it's honestly overall an amazing way to end the pay-per-view. And that's why I'm putting it up there. Like I said, the best pay-per-view of the WrestleMania calendar year. And honestly, because of the substantialness, this is going to go down as one of the top pay-per-views of all time. It really is, because it's where you have John Cena's heel turn. All the matches -1 are really, really good. The thing, right? This is going to go down as one of the biggest greatest or not. I think it was a very good pay-per-view, and it absolutely could be like in the conversation. But at the very least, it's going to be one of the most memorable, and in one of the most memorable pay-per-views that we have got. We have a tag team match with what is it? Tiffany and
Trish.
Stratton.
Yeah, Tiffany and Trish and
Nia Jax and Candice, and it's just like. That's fair. Cool. And that happened too in the pay-per-view.
But that's the thing.
Like, one sour note for me throughout the whole thing. One sour, it killed the pacing. I didn't care. Like, I don't think it did anyone enough justice in the right way. It showed me how far gone Trish's era of wrestling is. I'm not saying specifically Trish. From modern day, which is like amazing, the women's division and whatnot now.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was such a sour note in the whole pay-per-view. But if you look beyond that, this Elimination Chamber was it's absolutely top tier.
It's gonna be, and what I mean by like the top PLE's pay-per-views of all time, I mean memorable. I don't mean like stacked top to bottom, because no matter what, when you have a dud match in a card, it does take away from the quality of it. But that being said, memorableness, 100%. And I can't believe we definitely picked the right PLE to start a podcast on, because man, oh man, we had a lot to talk about. Yeah, but it was. I mean, Nick. I mean, overall, man, this is Elimination Chamber 2025, man. We got Mania coming up, night 1, night 2. We're definitely going to be sitting down doing a fantasy booking of Mania at some point. I would say probably within I think Mania is like the second week of April this year. So I would say like third week we'll probably have more of a clear view of what the stuff is going to look like down the line. Maybe the card's a little bit more set in stone. But we're definitely going to do fantasy booking, maybe predictions. And then we'll obviously recap Mania as well. But yeah, guys,
if you just saw, I was checking to see if I'd put it in my calendar. I haven't. I absolutely will. But yeah, I'd love to do a fantasy booking and whatnot.
It's gonna be fun.
I do think you got to do it close, because you've got to know like how things are panning out and what have you. But I think this pay-per-view, it is building to it so good. The road to WrestleMania, it started at the Rumble, but like
it's
going. Big bump in the road. Like
we got tires that hit the road. There is smoke. We're going full speed at WrestleMania, and it's going to be a great ride, and I'm all here for it. But guys, that will do us for this month's little wrap up. I don't even know if it's going to be a month. We'll probably be back in a couple weeks talking about it. But guys, again, I hope you guys really enjoyed it. You know, this is something that we really love. Me and Nick love talking about wrestling, and wrestling is hot as ever. And so, you know, honestly, one of our DHH wrestling podcast, one we kind of tested the waters with, it got a good reception. So we're here to stay, guys. But as always, I'm Luke. This is going to be Nick joining me every time, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Take care, all.